Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yesshift. This is Steven with another Steven's Vinyl Adventures segment. This time, celebrating the birthday of Steve Hackett, former guitarist of Genesis, and of course, he's had a prolific solo career. Most recent studio album released last year, The Circus and the Night Whale, and he's been very active touring for years now. So, yeah, for this episode, I want to talk about the recent live album, Steve Hackett Live Magic at Trading Boundaries, which I'll share the cover image here. And I do have my vinyl copy of it, but I want to make sure I show the actual um a clear image of it. So yeah, and there you go. It's very nice. You see the band, you see the people watching the band. Oh, I never noticed the disco ball, and I've like had this for a bit. So yeah, and Trading Boundaries, they've had a lot of cool stuff happening. Long been displaying some really neat Roger Dean art. Um, and yeah, I'm just trying to find this other image that I saw. Let's see, share screen. And here we go. Yeah, so there's Steve Hackett. He posted this on his Facebook, thanking everyone for the birthday wishes. So you see him holding this little candle thing. I'm not sure if maybe it's like one of those like artificial candle things I've seen a friend of mine use, but yeah, really cool. Um, and yeah, so I ordered this, and I'll show it in a moment. I have it in my hand, but the Steve Hackett Live Magic at Trading Boundaries record, I bought this one signed from the Steve Hackett online store, but at the moment it looks like it was sold out. I think it might have been sold out for a little bit, and then they got more of these signed ones, but now it's listed as sold out again over at hackettsongs.com. But yeah, I went ahead and got it, so making sure I'm careful displaying it on camera. So there it is. Oh, that actually looks really neat with the purple, like, the purple stripe across the top of the screen here. I see his signature in the corner there. And this is what the backside looks like with the track list, which I'll read off as I talk about my overall general thoughts on this live album. This was pretty different from other recent Steve Hackett live albums I've heard. A couple of the recent ones were very full band, live concert, and, just a huge sound. But this one, because of, it's in an intimate venue. I don't know if you hear my dog, like, digging around on the blankets in the background. But yeah, he's like treating the blankets like they're the ground or something and just moving them around to make sure that they're like the most comfortable, to his liking and such. But yeah, this one is more of it's very acoustic, so a bit different from of course, the Genesis Revisited live albums. They feel very much like listening to a Genesis live album. And, the band, the people he has on those shows are very skilled, very talented. They really are able to bring that 70s material into like today and make it sound like you're there, really transports you back in time. And I've talked about a Steve Hackett concert I went to, I think at the end of 2023, And we've had Steve Hackett on this show a couple of times, once in 2022, and again around a year ago this time of this month. We had him to talk about the circus and the night whale. Oh, and I see we have Dave Watkinson chiming in. Yeah, I was actually going to give you a shout out, but I'll go ahead and do that right now. And this actually saves me a lot of work, really, that you're already touching on this. So, Dave Watkinson says, the week at Trading Boundaries has been fabulous with Roger Dean slash Yes exhibition and Rick Wakeman shows. Soon also Asia, Bill Bruford, and Jazz Sabbath. Hackett loves Trading Boundaries. Yeah, I think the most recent time Hackett was there was last month. And yeah, while you're here, Dave, just want to mention to people that the other day I saw that the Yes official Facebook page shared the YouTube video of the little tour that you and I think it was Kevin who was with you, doing a little video tour of Trading Boundaries and showing the different, Roger Dean art. And there's also a display of a bit of your contributions as well. I think there's like a Yes 1976 poster, and you could see like the mannequin head from either the Yes album or the videos of that era or something like it. But yeah, it was a really cool video to watch. It's about half hour, maybe a little more than half hour long, and I think you touched on how the close to the edge illustration that's in that video was lost for a time and then found again, and now they were able to display it there at Trading Boundaries. So, like I've been saying, right now it feels like the UK gets to have all the fun with all the stuff going on at Trading Boundaries. You mentioned Bill Bruford and Jazz Sabbath. They'll be there in March, and Asia will be there in April. I saw a loudersound.com article reminding people of that. Asia are going to be playing 3 nights, each one devoted to each of the first 3 albums, Asia, Alpha, and Astra, which it didn't dawn on me until reading that article that Astra turns 40 this year. Yeah, I had to do the math in my head, because when you hear the last digit of a year and you're like, wait, was that 40 years ago or 50 years ago? And it's, yeah, but yeah, really cool that they're doing that with the lineup of John Mitchell, Harry Whitley, Virgil Donati, and Jeff Downs. The videos I've seen of their performances last year, they've been doing a great job carrying the legacy. I see David Drummer. Is that your actual name or your occupation? Or both? Says, tuning in from Newport Beach in a convalescent home bed. And Dave Watkinson chimes in again saying, 40 items from me. We did the video straight through on Saturday. Yeah, it was a fun watch. And he says, Asia, a world exclusive with 3 albums before the tour. And David, the drummer, says, I met Alan White 3 times, 2 drum clinics. Did I say clinics? Clinics. Yeah, so seems like those will have been in the later years, according to your comment. But yeah, so this live album, when I first heard about it, before looking more into it, I thought that it was from a show last year, but reading into it, apparently this is a compilation of tracks from different shows of different years. So I guess you could kind of compare it to Yes shows in that manner. That album was recordings from different tours, different years. But if you were to listen to this in isolation without knowing that, you might think it's all the same show. So that really is a testament to how it feels very much like it all belongs in the same place. And I mean, it's all at the same venue, no matter the year. And I'll also show the inside of this. So I gotta be careful because, like, I don't want to bump into the microphone. But maybe if I move the microphone, and I'll be silent for a moment, I guess, since it won't be close to my face, but so I'll be able to show the inside of this, the packaging of the record. And it's like really tough because it's covering my view, and I don't know if it's like showing the full um, Im- images. All right, yeah, I think that should do it. Um, and I'll show the records themselves. But when I something I've been noticing is that when records get delivered to me, at least recently, they come in this uh, box packaging that's the dimensions of the sleeve. It's basically like getting comparable to the shape of a pizza box. And when I get these things out of the box, the black sleeves that contain the actual vinyl records, they're like in the middle of this thing when I open them, instead of being within these slots on the packaging. So I'm kind of wondering why that is. Like, is that do these records risk being damaged if they're within those slots as they're being delivered? Is that why they're put in between these, uh, you know, in between these slots as opposed to within them? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm just reading David the Drummer's um, little comment here. Dave Stevens, DW endorsed drummer for 17 years, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Used to work for Pacific Amphitheater in Costa Mesa, California. Backstage hospitality, for setting up dressing rooms, and met Alan White. Bill Bruford met 2 times while performing 8 North American conventions. Oh, NAMM at conventions in Anaheim, California. He was very kind. Yeah, that'd be the NAMM show. Johnny says seems strange. Yeah, I guess that's in reference to the delivery method of putting the records in between the slots as opposed to in the slots. So I don't know if anyone has more knowledge about that. Let me know, because it's definitely happened more than once recently. But yeah, I'll go ahead and show the records themselves. All right, so yeah, it comes in this. It's all black, which really fits with the aesthetic. If the cover has like the black, the title is against black, on both the bottom and top of this. Okay, so we have side A, and of course it's from Inside Out Music. Yeah, so side A, I'll read the tracks after this, so I'm not like worrying about like dropping this. We have side B here. And sometimes for certain records, they like to do the colored vinyl. Like you'll have, like a blue Jazz Sabbath album or a green Rick Wakeman thing. And I was trying to imagine like if this were in colored vinyl, and the thought that came to mind was that You know, if this were like colored, like red colored vinyl, it wouldn't feel quite right for this release. Like, you know, when it comes to the cover art, the cover photo, I should say, as well as the music itself. Like, there are just some records where it's like, yeah, red feels right for this color, or like maybe a different color feels right for something. You know, green could feel right for something. So, yeah, I think yeah, I don't know, like certain colors match better with other things. Um, and yeah, so I'll get the other one. So this is a double live album, I guess. Um, all right, so it comes in another one of these things. Take it out carefully. All right, so you got side C and side D right there. And in the first slot, what was already there, and I now keep there along with uh, the first disc, is this little, you know, I guess the liner notes on a sheet, um, which I'll take out. Yeah, it's just one sheet here. So it's got that photo of Steve Hackett, the title Live Magic at Trading Boundaries. He's got the guitar and there's a microphone. Uh, Johnny asks, is Steve Howe on it? No, he is not. Um, that would be pretty cool, though. Like, you know, Yes fans know that the two of them performed together on GTR. And that was a whole thing. And, you know, but Steve Howe has, I think, was in Steve Howe's autobiography or in Steve Hackett's. Maybe both, like, you know, alluding to how, like, they're still good friends now. And here you have, on the other side of this sheet, you have the pictures of the other musicians, and also comes with a note from Steve, talking about this whole thing. And he also has a bit of commentary, like track by track, which I'll touch on that in a moment. But first off, I want to read off the band. So you got Steve Hackett on guitar and harmonica, of course, John Hackett on flute, Roger King on keyboards, Amanda Lehman on guitar and vocals, Rob Townsend on flute, whistle, and soprano sax. And I love how it has like band and then another list that says everyone else. Benedict Fenner, live sound plus album mix and mastering. Roy Weird, house sound. Rob Pitts did the lighting. Robert Cooper did recording facilities. I don't know if that's the right wording, like did recording facilities. He's credited for recording facilities. Michael Clifford, promoter and host. Brian Coles, live work coordinator. Joe Hackett, co-management. Freddie Palmer and Thomas Weber, record company. Yeah, of course, this is Inside Out Music. Thomas Ewerhard, design. Tim Hale, front cover photography. David Clay, back cover photography. Chris Simmons, David Clay, and Ollie Clifford, photos general. And he thanks Michael Clifford and everyone at Dream Boundaries, as well as Benedict Fenner and the performers, and many thanks as well to Freddie Palmer. Above all, my love and thanks to Joe Hackett for her hard work, dedication, and support. No one could find a more loving wife and partner. Yeah, that's very sweet right there. So I'll go ahead and say what's on each side and then share general overall thoughts. So, side A, you have Improv, Blood on the Rooftops, Excerpt, The Barren Land, Blacklight, Horizons, and Jacuzzi. Side B, you have an excerpt of Supper's Ready, you know, that Genesis classic. After the Ordeal, Hairless Heart, Jazz on a Summer's Night, No Cien number one, Walking Away from Rainbows, and on side C you have Poulenc organ concerto excerpt. The red flower of Tai Chi blooms everywhere. Hands of the Priestess. And on side D you have Memory Lane, Only Happy When It Rains, Ace of Wands, and The Journey. And I do like the commentary that Hackett adds on this track by track thing on this sheet. They're one sentence, I guess, descriptions and commentary, but it's neat that he was able to do that. Trying to read through and see if there's anything I want to sort of tease out here. Let's see. For the improv piece at the start, he says, an unfinished dream, which hints at something to be expanded in the future. And I'd have to really look into whether this was ever expanded on something since then. I'm not really sure when the recording of that improv piece is. Let's see. For Horizons, he says, inspired by Bach, I felt this little piece fitted perfectly before supper's ready on Foxtrot. And yeah, that piece, Horizons, it begins with the do 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 do, and I was thinking to myself, wait, I've heard this. Like, I don't remember if it was within Genesis or Steve Hackett stuff, or if maybe it was elsewhere, like as part of a movie, or maybe I've heard classmates at school play it. And so when I saw that it was Bach inspired, I was like, okay, so this seems like it's one of those classical bits that people play now and then. And there is a very classical feel on these tracks. Let's see. I'm just looking at what I jotted down for these. So for the first couple tracks, it felt like there's a very, romantic classical guitar feel. And I even forgot about the audience, so I was like really surprised when they applauded. As a reminder, like, oh yeah, this is a live album, which, and I mean, kudos to the audience for being quiet so that the performance could be heard. I guess it helps that it's in a smaller setting like this, whereas if it were in a larger setting, maybe people would be more inclined to, I don't know, like clap along or something. There are some very jazzy bits that come in on side B. Oh, Jacuzzi was where some other instruments were coming in. So like the tracks before Jacuzzi were very, guitar, and then you get to hear like other instruments. So on side B, Supper's Ready excerpt, I agree with Steve's assessment that it's calm and haunting. Jazz on the Summer's Night, that one is very danceable. Like the flute gives a very whimsical sort of Jethro Tull feel. Like it's easy to go for the Jethro Tull comparison when they have such a monopoly with the flute when it comes to prog rock. And there aren't a whole lot of bands I've listened to that utilize the flute as much. The band Mostly Autumn comes to mind. I've heard some of their stuff. But yeah, and No Cien number one felt to me like it could accompany a classic film, and maybe that is the point with that piece. He says it's a mesmerizing Eric Satie piece. John's flute sounds exquisite. Walking Away from Rainbows, the saxophone on there feels very, it's amazing. It has this romantic noir feel, and all the twists and turns that it goes through. Side C, Pauline organ concerto, like the beginning of it has kind of a Phantom of the Opera feel. That might be kind of a pedestrian comparison for me to make. Makes it sound like that type of organ sound is something I've only heard on Phantom of the Opera, and I haven't heard much else. But that was just the first thing that came to mind. And the flute is a bit prominent on part of that as well. Red flower of Tai Chi blooms everywhere has a noticeable shift in tone going into that one. It has a very Eastern Asia feel, I believe. Not Asia the band, but the continent, and it made me feel nostalgic because in high school I took this class called ROP Multimedia Production, and one of the assignments that we had was take these tracks that our teachers, a husband, worked on, I believe. Take those music tracks and pick a few and mix them into like one sort of medley type track, I guess. And I was really proud of the one I came up with, and it incorporated an Eastern sounding track similar to this one, so it got me kind of nostalgic. And side D is where the vocals come in, on those last few tracks. Very incredible singing there from Amanda. So, yeah, this was a really great listen. Because of how intimate the setting is, and the acoustic nature of much of it, it felt like I was putting this record on the record player. It felt like I was listening to one of those it felt like I had dug up a record from a few decades ago and was giving it a spin. Like, that's not to say it's I'm not saying it feels dated, but it just had that nice, warm, cozy feel of just putting on something from time long ago, even though it's from the last few years. And if you're curious about what Steve Hackett's setlist was when he performed at Trading Boundaries last month, over on Setlist FM, I see that there's tracks listed for January 19th last month. So that wouldn't be on this album because this was compiled before. But that set list supposedly included Improvisations, Horizons, Jacuzzi, These Passing Clouds, Supper's Ready After the Ordeal, Headless Heart, or Hairless Heart, I should say, Walking Away from Rainbows, Casa del Fano, Second Chance, Jazz on a Summer's Night, and then set 2 at Palenque, The Red Flower of Tai Chi Blooms Everywhere. Or, or, okay, yeah, so they typed it wrong on Setlist FM, I guess. It's Tai Chi on the back of the album. Hands of the Priestess, Nocia number 1, Syrinx, Sepia Tones, Memory Lane. And Memory Lane apparently is an Amanda Lemon song. Only Happy When It Rains, Ace of Wands, and for the encore, The Journey, and Bacchus/Firth of Fifth. So there are some pieces on there that are on this. So he'd performed some of those at Train Boundaries before, but there are also some different pieces on there. So I kind of wonder if there'd ever be a volume 2 of this that includes tracks that are not on here but are at various other Trading Boundaries performances, which, I'd be down for something like that. Let's see, looking at the comments. Dave Watkinson says, as an aside, Lee Pomeroy attended the Rick Wakeman gig and was very upbeat on his time with ARW. He will be in the Rick Wakeman band for the October tour in the UK. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so before getting into, let's see, I do see the Rick Wakeman set list at Train Boundaries, or at least one of the shows is listed on here, which I'll wait until the end of this to read it. But yeah, like, all this is to say that this record, I'm really glad I got it. I think I'm more drawn to the Genesis Revisited stuff because of the huge sound and that type of feel. But if you just need something calm but still really complex and incredible, like, go ahead and get Live Magic at Trading Boundaries. Adds a bit of variety into the listening habits. So, um, yeah. Um, oh, Johnny says both are great. So that refers to Steve Howe and Steve Hackett. It says nice songs. Okay. So yeah, very exciting stuff happening at Trading Boundaries, and so the Rick Wakeman set list for February 6th, according to Setlist FM, was excerpts from the Six Wives of Henry VIII, Morning Has Broken, which is a Cat Stevens cover, excerpts from the Myths and Legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Life on Mars, of course, David Bowie, and it has a question mark at the end. So I don't recall if the question mark is part of the song title or if it's whoever put this up wondering if it was Life on Mars. And then a little medley of The Meeting, And You and I, and Wondrous Stories, Help and Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, of course, and then excerpts from Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now, I might need someone to remind me, were these three Rick Wakeman gigs, was it like each night is a different album focus or type of repertoire focus? It's been a moment since I looked into that info. I'm actually seeing if I can find some of that info right now. Okay, yeah, nothing's coming up, so maybe someone knowledgeable about that can chime in the comments wherever they're watching. Oh, Dave Watkinson says the Hackett album went to #1 over here in the UK. Oh, yeah, I think I saw something about that, so that's really cool. Yeah, Steve Hackett still busy with his career, so it's really cool to see. And on that note, on that Genesis related note, Dave Kersner recently finally released his album It, a celebration of the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. So check that out on Bandcamp. It's Sonic Elements over on Bandcamp. And I'll have to see when Dad is available so that he and I can talk about that album. And there are a couple other things in the pipeline, but yeah, we'll post about like when they're coming up. Dave Watkinson says, I think he did the same set. I was there for all three. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that even though it was the same set, maybe you caught some different little nuances with each performance. Not every show is exactly the same, even though they can feel the same. I think that's something that I kind of learned when I listened to the Progeny Yes box set years and years ago. Like, okay, these are the same songs, but there are little differences here and there, and different vibes of the night, which I really appreciate. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and happy birthday once again to Steve Hackett. And we'll be back sometime in the near future to talk about some other things. And yeah, Dad will be on here again, and sometimes it'll just be me. So we're making things work how they work. Oh, Dave Wilkinson says energy differed from the crowd. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So check out Trading Boundaries if you're in the UK, if you're near there. Maybe you'll catch Bill Bruford and Jazz Sabbath next month, or Asia in April. So check out the Trading Boundaries website, see what's coming up, and always cool to see, any photos of the Roger Dean artwork that gets put up there. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube if you aren't already. Go to anchor.fm/Yesshift for the audio, or if you search Yesshift in podcast apps, you might find us. And you can write to us via yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. So thanks everyone, and see you all soon.